Hi, good evening, and thank you for joining us on day 312 at GGY. We have a very special guest with us today, Hijaz Hezbollah. Hijaz, thank you for joining us. But what we'll do is immediately cut away and we'll listen to the president. A more special guest. President's giving his inaugural address. So we'll cut away to that and we'll come back to you.
Sure.
ඒ සඳහා ඉතාමත් දක්ෂ කණ්ඩායමක් අප සතු ඉන්නවා. ඒ සියලු දෙනාට ඒ පිළිබඳව දැඩි අධිෂ්ඨානයක් තිබෙනවා. සෑම ශේෂ්ත්‍රයකම ව්‍යුහාත්මක වෙනස්කම් කිරීමට පෙර ආර්ථිකයේ විස්තර මට්ටමක් දක්වා ඔසවා දැමීම අවශ්‍ය බවට අප දැඩි විශ්වාස කරනවා. ඒ වෙනුවෙන් දිගු කාල හා මධ්‍ය කාල සැලසුම් ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමට පෙර අනුගමනය කළ යුතු කඩිනම් ආර්ථික ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ඔස්සේ කෙටි කාල ස්ථාවරත්වයක් ඇති කර ගැනීමට අපි කටයුතු කරනවා. අප අපේක්ෂා කරන වෙනස සඳහා සැලකිලි කාලයක් තුළ පියවර රැසක් ගැනීමට තිබෙනවා. ඒ සියල්ලදී පවතින්නේ වර්තමාන ආර්ථිකය තුළ ස්ථාවරත්වය හා විශ්වාසය වර්ධනය පමණයි. ඒ සඳහා ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය අරමුදල සමග කඩනමින් සාකච්ඡා ආරම්භ කර විස්තීර්ණ ණය පහසුකමට අදාළ කටයුතු ඉදිරියට ගෙන යාමට අප අදහස් කරනවා. ණය ප්‍රතිගත කරන වැඩසටහන ඉදිරියට ගෙන යාම සඳහා ආදාළ ණය පහසුකම සාකච්ඡා කර ඒ සම්බන්ධ කටයුතු හැකි ඉක්මනින් නිම කර ආදාළ ණය සහන ලබා ගැනීමට අපි කටයුතු කරනවා. ඒ සඳහා මේ රටේ ජනතාව වගේම ජාත්‍යන්තර ප්‍රජාවගේ සහයෝගය ලබාගත හැකි බවට අප විශ්වාස කරනවා. ඒ සහයෝගය තුළින් අපට සාමූහික ජයග්‍රහණ කළ හැකි බව අපි තරයේ විශ්වාස කරනවා. අපට බලය ලබා දීමේදී මහ ජනතාව තුළ තදින් මුල් බැසගත් සංකල්පයක් වූයේ වෙනසක් ඇති කිරීමයි. මෙතුළින් වෙනසක් කියන්නේ මෙරට පුරවැසියා අපේක්ෂා කළ වෙනස්කම් අතර එක් ප්‍රධාන කරුණක් වන්නේ දේශපාලන සංස්කෘතියේ පවතින සියලු ආකාරයේ අයහපත් ගති ලක්ෂණ වෙනස් කිරීම. අද වන විට අප භාවිත වෙන උපකට තිබෙනවා. මෙරට සියලු ආකාරයේ මැතිවරණ සලකා බැලුවද පශ්චාත් මැතිවරණ ප්‍රචාරණ ක්‍රියා වාර්තා නොවුණු එකම මැතිවරණ ලෙස පැවති ජනාධිපතිවරණ ඉතිහාසගත කිරීමට අපට හැකියාව ලැබී තිබෙනවා. මෙරට ජනතාව අප කෙරෙහි තිබු විශ්වාසය සනාථ කිරීම ඒ තුලින් සිද්ධ වෙනවා. මෙම තත්ත්වය තාවුරු කරමින් ස්ථාවර කිරීම අපගේ අරමුණයි. දේශපාලන බලය ලබා ගැනීම වෙනුවෙන් සංවිධානය වීම සහ ඒ වෙනුවෙන් උපාය මාර්ග ගැනීමට ඕනෑම කෙනෙකුට තිබෙන අයිතිය. දේශපාලනය කරන වෙලාවට දේශපාලනය කිරීමක් රට ගොඩනැගීම උදෙසා කටයුතු කළ වෙලාවට ඒ වෙනුවෙන් සාමූහික ඉක්මීම වැදගත්කම මම මේ මොහොතේ අවධාරණය කරනවා. ඒ සඳහා අවශ්‍ය නායකත්වය අපි ලබා දෙන සූදානම්. සිංහල වේවා, දෙමළ වේවා, මුස්ලිම් වේවා, බෞද්ධ වේවා, මැලේ වේවා මේ සියලු දෙනාටම අප ශ්‍රී ලාංකික පුරවැසියන්ගේ අභිමානයෙන් ජීවත් විය හැකි ප්‍රායෝගික රටක් නිර්මාණය වන තුරු මේ රට අසමත් වන හැර සමත් වන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ සඳහා අවශ්‍ය වන ව්‍යවස්ථාමය ආර්ථික දේශපාලනික ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණ සිදු කිරීමට අප කිසිසේත්ම මෙලවන්නේ නැහැ. තමන්ගේ ජාතිය, ආගම, පන්තිය, කුලය අනුව මේ රට වෙනුණු යුගයේ සාමූහිකව අවසන් කර විවිධත්වයට ගරු කරන ශ්‍රී ලාංකික ජාතියක් ගොඩනැගීමට ස්ථිරසාර වැඩපිළිවෙළක් අපි ආරම්භ කරනවා. මේ
සාධාරණත්ව හිමිවන රාජ්‍යයක් වෙනුවෙන් අපි වඩාත් වගකීම් සහිත ලෙස දායක වෙනවා. දැනුම, කුසලතාවය, අධ්‍යාපනය, ව්‍යවසායකත්වයට දිරිගන්වන වැඩපිළිවෙලක් තුළින් අපගේ ළමා හා තරුණ පරම්පරාවට විශ්වසනීය අනාගතයක් අප විසින් නිර්මාණය කරනවා. අපේ රටේ ජනගහනයෙන් 52% ඉක්මවන කාන්තා ප්‍රජාව මේ රට ආර්ථිකය සහ සමාජ ක්‍රියාවලියේ සුවිශාල දායකත්වයක් දක්වන පිරිසක්. කාන්තා නියෝජනය සම්බන්ධ සියලු දෙනාට එක්ව ගත හැකි ක්‍රියාමාර්ග වෙතට අපි යොමු වෙනවා. සියලු ආයතනයන්හි කාන්තා නියෝජනය ශක්තිමත් කිරීමට අපි පියවර ගන්නවා. ඒ සඳහා වන අපගේ කැපවීමේ ආදර්ශය සනාථ කරමින් දැනටමත් අපේ අග්‍රාමාත්‍ය ධූරයට කාන්තාවත් පත් කොට තිබෙනවා. මෙරට ජනගහනයෙන් විශාල පිරිසක් ආබාධ සහිත සුවිශේෂී සමාජ ආරක්ෂණයක් ලැබිය යුතු පිරිසක්. එම පිරිස වෙනුවෙන් ශක්තිමත් සමාජ ආරක්ෂණ ජාලයක් අපි විසින් යෝජනා කර තිබෙන අතර එහි කෙටි කාලීන ක්‍රියාමාර්ග කඩිනමින් ආරම්භ කරනවා. අප යන ගමනේදී මේ සමාජ දේහයේ සියලු කණ්ඩායම් මඟ නොහරින බවට අප වග කියනවා. එකිනෙකාගේ අනන්‍යතාවයට ගරු කරමින් ඒවා රටේ ප්‍රගතිය උදෙසා සාධනීය ලෙස යොදා ගැනීම වෙනුවෙන් අපි අපේ දායකත්වය ලබා දෙනවා. මහජන පරමාධිපත්‍ය පිළිබඳව අපි ඉතා දැඩිව විශ්වාස කරන අතර ඔවුන්ගේ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී අයිතිවාසිකම් සුරක්ෂිත කිරීමට කැප වෙනවා. අප පිළිබඳ සැකසංකා හේතුවෙන් අවිනිශ්චිතතාවය ඇති අය සිටින බව මා දන්නවා. මාගේ ක්‍රියාවන් තුළින් ඔබගේ විශ්වාසය දිනා ගැනීමට මා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඔබගේ සාධනීය විවේචන පිළිගැනීමට සූදානම්. එමෙන්ම අප එක්ව ගොඩනගන අනාගතයේ කොටස් කරවම් වීමට ඔබව ධෛර්යමත් කරනවා. අප අතර පවතින වෙනස්කම් අතික්‍රමණය කළ හැකි නම් ඔබ හා අප අතර ඇති ඉලක්ක සමාන වන බව ඔබට වැටහෙනු ඇතැයි මා විශ්වාස කරනවා. ඒ මගින් රට මුහුණ දී ඇති අර්බුදය පිළිගැනීමටත් ඒ තුළින් ඉදිරියට යාමට අවශ්‍ය උපාය මාර්ග එක්ව සැලසුම් කිරීමටත් හැකියාව ලැබෙනවා. මේ රට ගොඩනැගීම උදෙසා සාධනීය ලෙස අවංකව සම්බන්ධ වන සියලු දෙනාට අපේ දොරටු විවෘතයි. ජනතාවගේ ජනවරමට අනුරූපී වන පාර්ලිමේන්තුවක් අවශ්‍යයි. ඔබ දන්නෝ පැවතුණු පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ජනතාවගේ ජනමතයේ විකෘතියක්. ඒ අනුව මා ඊයේ දිනේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව විසිරුව හැරීමට පියවර ගත්තා. ව්‍යවස්ථානුකූල රට ගෙන යාම සඳහා අපේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු නියෝජනයට අනුරූප වන ආකාරයට කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයක් පත් කරගත්තා. අලුත් ඉරක් පායන හැම දවසකම මේ රටේ සියලු මිනිසුන් දකින සිහිනයක් තිබෙනවා. ඒ අදට වඩා හොඳ හෙටක්. එහෙත් දශක ගණනාවක් තිස්සේ සිහිනයක් පමණක් වූ බව ඔබත් මමත් දන්නා කරුණක්. අවස්ථාවාදී බලලෝභය ඒකාධිපතිවාදය හා ජාතිවාදය හේතුවෙන් අපේ රට තවමත් ඉහළින් ඔසවා තබන්න අපිට හැකියාව ලැබිලා නැහැ. එහෙත් දැන් අපට ඉතිහාසය අත්හල නොහැකි අවස්ථාව ලැබී තිබෙනවා. අප සියලු දෙනා එකට එක්ව විවිධත්වයන් දරා ගන්නා පොහොසත් ලස්සන රටක් ගොඩනගමු. ස්තුතියි. තෙරුවන් සරණයි. දෙවි පීඨයි. අයිබෝන්.
ඒ සමගින් හිරු සවසහාය පනස
සුවිශේෂ සමාජ ආරක්ෂණය ලැබී සිටි නිසා එම පිරිසෙවි සාර්ථක සමාජ ආරක්ෂණ ජාලයක් අපි
යෝජනා කර තිබෙන අතර එහි කෙටි කාලන ක්‍රියාමාර්ග කඩිනමින් ආරම්භ කරනවා. අප යන ගමනේදී මේ සමාජ දේහයේ සියලු කණ්ඩායම් මඟ නොහරින බවට අප වග කියනවා. එකිනෙකාගේ අනන්‍යතාවයට ගරු කරමින් ඒව රටේ ප්‍රගතිය උදෙසා සාධනීය ලෙස යොදා ගැනීම වෙනුවෙන් අපි අපේ දායකත්වය ලබා දෙනවා. මහජන පරමාධිපත්‍ය පිළිබඳව අපි ඉතා දැඩිව විශ්වාස කරන අතර ඔවුන්ගේ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී අයිතිවාසිකම් සුරක්ෂිත කිරීමට කැප වෙනවා. අප පිළිබඳ සැකසංකා හේතුවෙන් අවිනිශ්චිතතාවය ඇති අය සිටින බව මා දන්නවා. මාගේ ක්‍රියාවන් තුළින් ඔබගේ විශ්වාසය දිනා ගැනීමට මා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඔබගේ සාධනීය විවේචන පිළිගැනීමට සූදානම්. එමෙන්ම අප එක්ව ගොඩනගන අනාගතයේ කොටස් කරවම් වීමට ඔබව ධෛර්යමත් කරනවා. අප අතර පවතින වෙනස්කම් අතික්‍රමණය කළ හැකි නම් ඔබ හා අප අතර ඇති ඉලක්ක සමාන වන බව ඔබට වැටහෙනු ඇතැයි මා විශ්වාස කරනවා. ඒ මගින් රට මුහුණ දී ඇති අර්බුදය පිළිගැනීමටත් ඒ තුළින් ඉදිරියට යාමට අවශ්‍ය උපාය මාර්ග එක්ව සැලසුම් කිරීමටත් හැකියාව ලැබෙනවා. මේ රට ගොඩනැගීම උදෙසා සාධනීය ලෙස අවංකව සම්බන්ධ වන සියලු දෙනාට අපේ දොරටු විවෘතයි. ජනතාවගේ ජනවරමට අනුරූපී වන පාර්ලිමේන්තුවක් අවශ්‍යයි. ඔබ දන්නෝ පැවතුණු පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ජනතාවගේ ජනමතයේ විකෘතියක්. ඒ අනුව මා ඊයේ දිනේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව විසිරුව හැරීමට පියවර ගත්තා. ව්‍යවස්ථානුකූල රට ගෙන යාම සඳහා අපේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු නියෝජනයට අනුරූප වන ආකාරයට කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයක් පත් කරගත්තා. අලුත් ඉරක් පායන හැම දවසකම මේ රටේ සියලු මිනිසුන් දකින සිහිනයක් තිබෙනවා. ඒ අදට වඩා හොඳ හෙටක්. එහෙත් දශක ගණනාවක් තිස්සේ සිහිනයක් පමණක් වූ බව ඔබත් මමත් දන්නා කරුණක්. අවස්ථාවාදී බලලෝභය ඒකාධිපතිවාදය හා ජාතිවාදය හේතුවෙන් අපේ රට තවමත් ඉහළින් ඔසවා තබන්න අපිට හැකියාව ලැබිලා නැහැ. එහෙත් දැන් අපට ඉතිහාසය අත්හල නොහැකි අවස්ථාව ලැබී තිබෙනවා. අප සියලු දෙනා එකට එක්ව විවිධත්වයන් දරා ගන්නා පොහොසත් ලස්සන රටක් ගොඩනගමු. ස්තුතියි. තෙරුවන් සරණයි. දෙවි පීඨයි. අයිබෝන්.
That was quite short and sweet. Right?
Yeah.
That was fairly quick.
What a change.
What a change, absolutely. Yeah, even the swearing ceremony yesterday was quite a simple ceremony. Right? Normally we see these big pageants and things like that. So,
Sun rising.
right, exactly. Right, so welcome back. Let me quickly introduce everyone. We have Dushi, and we actually have a second special guest, Anuruddha, who's joined us as well. And thank you, Hijaz, for joining us. Chris, and we have a bunch of others who've joined us. Hijaz getting the celebrity treatment. So I think Before we get on to our discussion, Hijaz, maybe just reflect on the election and what are your hopes from this president and this new administration?
I think I'm very happy with the outcome, and I'm sure you would have seen my tweet where I said this was the first time that a lot of people, and not just minorities, a lot of people went to bed having cast their vote, whoever they voted for, with the sense that whatever the result is, it's going to be a good one, and certainly it was for me. And so we have a very positive start. And I remember, if I don't know, I've not given much thought, but I think something like this was in 1994 when Chandrika was elected.
Right.
After 17 years of the UNP, when Chandrika was elected, there was a lot of hope. I remember as a young person.
Even Yahapalne to a certain extent.
Yahapalne to a certain extent, but Chandrika more when Chandrika was. And then of course going to the Kade down my road and buying bed at 350, right? So those are, but of course Chandrika herself, and that also was it didn't deliver on those promises. Right. From what I see, and the people that the current president and the current administration has surrounded itself. There's much more hope for much more. We have a lot more to. Maybe there are a lot of more positive signs coming out, like the appointment of the governors, the prime ministerial choice, all that. So there is a lot to be optimistic about.
Very progressive choice.
Very progressive choice. Very progressive choice. And I think there's something that I think a lot of people are not looking at. Is look at those governor appointments. Look at those governor appointments. Look at the people who have come in. For example, just few people that I know, like the northern governor, Mr. Vedanayakam, is a person of very good integrity and a good reputation in that community. And I'm also told that Mr. Hanif Yusuf is, I don't know whether it's confirmed, but I think I just get some tweets and messages. It's confirmed?
Is it confirmed? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
So he's coming as a Western province. So those are all
my former boss.
Right. So those are all good things. Governance is not easy, Chamindra. It's not easy, and there will be lots of issues that come along the way. And governments will make mistakes,
right,
and they will mess it up. But of course, it's the point that they will. I feel there's a good intention and a lot of hope, and that's what I think we need to.
But I think there's a massive weight of expectation on this particular government. I think more so than anybody else, because the wave that they rode into power from such a low base of like 3%, I think, right, in the last election, to build that momentum to up to what, 42%. I mean, that's a massive swing for them. But the fact that they actually went ahead with these appointments so quickly meant that they were prepared, that they had these loaded in the chamber.
Well, on this question of a lot of expectations, I think they've also, I don't know, the way the country has gone through in the last 2 years, and also the way they've also been communicating, I feel they've also I think they can also handle those expectations. I mean, they can surf that bit and ride those waves well enough. Well, anyway, let's wait and see.
Let's wait and see.
It's
only been like a day. Anybody else has thoughts on the new administration? Anuruddha, what are your thoughts?
It's like mainly what the people expect is, I think like it's accountability. Rather
justice.
than the economic concessions and stuff, like what they see is like what they prefer is accountability. So I think like the current government may deliver it, like they have enough resources, and they will be able to deliver it.
There's also an expectation for them to fail. Right, you can see it in certain, it's like, we this is like paving the way for another return to, you see it, right, in the conversation. How do you feel about that sort of narrative?
So I just saw a post from Sanji. So most of the people were expecting the country to be developed by 2048. Now they expect the same in like 2-3 weeks.
That's
not fair,
that is a
right?
good point. That is a good point, because Ralin's promise was 2048.
So
how do you feel about that?
Sorry.
No,
No, I was-
Go ahead.
Thank you. I was going to say planning is very necessary, isn't it? Because I was thinking of the first time that our current Prime Minister, Dr. Amar Surya, came when we invited her to come and talk to us, not
Last
at the round
November.
table, but during
The
the
initial
Aragalaya, the very first time
first
she came and
discussion we
spoke
had.
to us. Yes,
That's right.
during the Aragalaya days, and she talked about going into the community and spreading their message. If you remember, that was something that she emphasized that they
Yeah.
were doing.
Yeah.
And I think the plan started then. So they were looking ahead. I don't know whether they were looking ahead to today or yesterday, but definitely they were working towards.
Yeah, and also with very few people with national name recognition, they pulled off a campaign which is almost like crowdsourced.
Yeah.
It was
Yes,
their
exactly.
supporters canvassing and getting
Exactly.
the votes in.
It was like so organic, you know, like
Yeah.
That's
It was
so
organic.
It started at
It
that
was
point.
organic. It was
organic.
And maybe we didn't realize that. Maybe we didn't see it at that point, but they definitely had a plan in place. And I think that's why even these appointments which you mentioned, Chamin, the appointments are all falling in very quickly because yes, I think they had it all planned.
They had it all planned out.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Anything else you want to reflect on that before we
We'll
move
move on, we'll move on.
Okay, no, because
We can come back to it as we go on. yeah.
right. So I think in terms of what GGY has been fighting for Hijaz, we have been fighting for outcomes. We have not been fighting for any political parties.
Yes.
I mean, let's remind people before we move ahead that the outcomes we've been fighting for are good governance, first and foremost, law and order, equal application of the law, justice, accountability, transparency, and ultimately system change. These are the outcomes. So we were very clear where we were not going to get those outcomes, and that was with the continuation of the incumbent political system and culture, which we saw was being embodied by the former president. So we always said, look, vote for change. And we saw both the options as a form of change. I think we saw the NPV as a more radical, form of change. SJB as a more incremental kind of change, but both represented some form of change. And I think the proportion of votes both the parties got clearly shows where the people are at, right? That they are actually ready for change. How do you see that?
That's absolutely correct. I think way I was talking to my family about it is that SJB was a moderate change, whereas NPP was radical change.
Yeah.
And if you so it's about where you want to, like any investor, like so where you want to
Hedge your bets.
hedge your bets. So
Right.
it's a choice that you make. But there was change, and there was a need for change,
Right.
and people are ready for change. And on this expectation point, just that I feel, this is my personal gut instinct, is that people are also ready to give some time and chance for the government to get its act together, for the reason that we have seen enough governments coming in and making, like, magician, I'm using the word magician because that word was used before, magician kind of operations like the Pang at 350 and not delivering it later on.
Yeah.
So I think it's also important for the citizenship to also see things in that way, in that context, that
Right.
we are not in the same position, this government is not in the same position like any other government to make that kind of radical change, that or to make such drastic changes immediately, but that everything will have to at least happen in some way. So let's wait and see. The interesting times
Interesting
in
times.
political science.
Right. So I think the topic that we wanted to discuss with you, we were going to do it last week,
Yes.
before the election, because we thought we'll assess the state of law and order in the country with you, because of course you don't need an introduction. I didn't go into an introduction, but for those who may not know, you're an attorney as well as a detainee, right, under the PTA. And you've been a human rights activist. In fact, you came to prominence during, I think, the case that you fought against the forced cremations is what put you in the crosshairs. So could we start there? Maybe just remind people about your case and also where it stands right now.
Well, at the moment, I am being prosecuted before the High Court of Puttlam for allegedly giving a speech in this madrasas, inciting hatred against the Catholics. Anecdotally, the bulk of my legal team were Catholics, so obviously my legal team rebutted all those allegations by their very presence, because they know who I am and what I have been doing. The case has been going on. Started off in 2000. I was indicted in 2021, and we have had multiple trial dates. 4 witnesses have been led, including the 2 children who gave evidence, who gave statements saying that I gave the speech, the magistrate who recorded the 127 statement, and the treasurer of Save the Pearls Society, which was sort of funding those the children to study in the madrasa. One of the children has retracted back from his statement, and he has said that he did not see anything. I never came there. This was all a fabrication, and the state has now got him arrested and remanded him, and now the state has gone against him. And then the magistrate gave evidence, and he was also not very happy with the way the statement was recorded before him. So overall, I mean, I don't know whether it's correct for me to say this, but my position is that I don't see a reason why the prosecution needs to continue this. But anyway, it's continuing. If my next trial date is October 4th, we are confident.
Why do you think that is? Like, is it like when you're on the roller coaster, you have to just complete the ride? Is that the kind of thing it is? You can't stop sort of halfway? Because clearly a lot of things in bad faith. I mean, first of all, how do you maintain faith in the justice system? I mean, you yourself is a lawyer.
When I was arrested, Chaminda, I knew this was, I mean, obviously this was fabricated. It was completely, I was being victimized for what I had done before. And so I had my faith in 3 institutions. One was the Attorney General's Department. The next was the legal system, it is the lawyers, and the judicial system. I must say, the lawyers rallied around me, and they fought my case very well and very hard, and that I'm very happy about. And the judicial system has also not let me down so far. But of course, the Attorney General was a disappointment. There is a public opinion all over that there needs to be some sort of rethink or realignment in the Attorney General's Department, or at least in the way they approach their decisions with regard to prosecutions and non-prosecutions. So I do have my faith in the legal system. The fact that we made so much of progress and we've been able to bring the truth out is a testimony to the legal system. Yeah.
Okay. So 2 out of 3.
Yes. I'll say this, right? I mean, the CID was telling me that you will never wear a black coat again, and you will never see the other side of a prison wall. That's what the CID was telling me. Yeah. But here I am.
You're here.
So that's a system.
Right.
But we need to fight, and we need to work something out.
Right. I mean, you did spend time behind, but I think over 2 years. 2 years, right?
Around just 2 years.
Right, and you missed the birth of your daughter. I mean, you paid a person a price.
Yeah.
So you came into the crosshairs because of the work you were doing, right? And also this was when they were building this anti-Islamic fervor, Bandakuttu, Dr. Shafi, and so many, right? So many other,
that, right?
Huh?
This was after that, right?
No, it was around the same time, wasn't it?
Can I answer those questions after the case is over?
You can't really get into that. That's
why they prosecuted me? That I think maybe.
No, but I mean, we can read between the lines.
Inshallah, when
right?
the case is over, we'll talk about it.
Okay, good.
But there's a lot of theories are there, and this is something that I have asked myself. But it's better that I talk about it later.
Can you talk in terms of the context of, say, the poet who was prosecuted, and also Dr. Shafi's case? You don't have to talk directly about your one, because it's still ongoing in that context.
Ahnaf was arrested to implicate me.
Yeah.
And Ahnaf was threatened, and he has gone public on that he was threatened, and he was told, implicate so-and-so, and say that I paid him to write poetry about the ISIS, praising ISIS, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So and Ahnaf obviously didn't want to do that. So then they had this person who was not ready to confess or to play along with the CID. So they just landed him up with some case, and then that case collapsed and he went home. Right. So lots of people like that. Then there was another administrator of Save the Pearls who has also gone public saying, it's all reported. I mean, if you just Google saying, a witness says I was forced to implicate Hijaz, and you'll have about 5 or 6 stories, but 5 or 6 people who were arrested like that.
But in a way that kind of gives us hope, because people of good integrity will always kind of step up in moments that matter.
Yeah. Now this is where the PTA plays a role.
Yeah.
Now under the PTA, you arrest a person and he is then gone into a legal black hole. There's no coming out of it. He knows that, everybody knows that, and that's the first thing that they drill into your head. There's nothing that you can do to get out of this situation.
Once you're in it.
Once you're in it. Then they tell you, okay, now that you're in it, there's a road out. What's the road out? Sign up,
Confession.
implicate so and so, incriminate so and so, incriminate so and so. I was fortunate that the people whom they wanted to do that incrimination part did not, despite all the odds being stacked against them, did not fall for that, right? Also, I was also lucky, and this is something exclusively, I think exclusive for me, the fact that I happened to be a lawyer and I had a massive legal team with a whole lot of lawyers voluntarily working 24 hours, day in and day out, hitting the system and trying to work and trying to sort of break these locks, which not everybody has. So then there are, and I think I can say safely, the lot of these PTA convictions of all those who have been convicted
In the past.
need to be reviewed, are unsafe, because lot of these things are based on these type of confessions.
Right. So we watched, all of us as a group, we went and watched that documentary about the forced cremations. And, similarly in your case and that particular case, the people behind the entire saga are not facing any type of consequences. How does that make you feel? Because, is there recourse for you once all your case is done to seek out some form of accountability?
Inshallah, once the case is over, Chaminda, technically and theoretically, I do have legal options. But then again, the question is
whether you want to.
Whether I want to go to another courthouse and sit in another courthouse and get this whole saga re-examined and go through it. Again, maybe I want to do it, maybe I might do it, maybe I might not do it. But substantially, again, I'm talking for others. Others who are similar circumstance, they just don't want to. They just want to go home and live peacefully away from all of this.
But those people are now sitting in positions of high authority or trust, public trust.
And that is where...
And they shouldn't be, right? Now, we know the people behind the forced cremation saga. And they're all in positions of public trust.
Those are battles that must be fought not by the victim, but by society itself. It's too much of a demand. It's too much asking the victim to fight that, because he's already fought it.
His own battle.
He has fought his battle and come out, and he is there. Now, as a society, we also need to fight for him or her.
Yeah, Anuruddha, what do you think? I think these are...
So that's the reality, So once you are in, and we can't expect him or her to have any more energy.
You've gone through your own...
Yeah.
So, do you have any pending trials cases, by the way? Or has all your cases?
I have one, on the Presidential Secretariat case.
Yeah.
But, I get what he just said, I haven't been, any close to what he has gone through.
Yeah.
But I totally get it. Once you are inside, and once you are inside a court and you go through all these legal cases,
you
don't have any more energy to continue.
Again.
So it's a rare case. So as he said, it's a duty of the society,
Fight.
Yeah, so it can happen to anyone. So, yeah.
In terms of the forced cremations, how can we hold those people accountable? Is there some law that can be used again? Did they violate someone's rights? Is that a possible way to go?
There are lots of options here, right? There was a clear fundamental rights violation, but unfortunately, those fundamental rights cases got dismissed in the Supreme Court. The scenario at that time, the mood at that time, the scientific thinking and the assurances, the data from the scientific community and what the Attorney General told the court, all of that piled up, and the court did not entertain any of those cases.
Yeah, in fact, it was explained. You didn't watch it with us, no? It was explained that was the issue because the courts have to go by what's put in front of them.
So those technical, the technical issues or something? Or
yes,
that's how those cases are thrown out?
Courts have to go with the scientific expertise that's presented to them. And the people they presented as experts were severely flawed, but then they had no option but to listen to them.
But can someone refile?
We don't have class action here, right?
We have not tried class action, but we can try. Now there's an issue with the class action problem as well, because there is a prescriptive period under a law. There's a time bar for the law with regard to
statute of
limitations. So now all this happened in 2020 and 21. By 21, the cremation episode, I know because I was inside, but I think by 21 the cremation was over. They started, the burials had started. So it's only now that the victims have found a voice and are now in a position to come out and talk about this issue, even go to court on these issues, and now the time has lapsed, so they have an issue there. But one thing that can be done is that a lot of those people who gave those opinions and those advice and the technical expertise, so-called technical expertise, are holding positions in government. So there are things that for example, there are regulatory bodies there which can go into these issues, and that's something that maybe needs to be looked at.
I mean, I think like Dr. Mehta, who's the other GMO?
Chana Pereira.
I mean, they should not be able to walk into polite society. Having done what they've done, I mean, that should be society's response, like y'all said.
So just out of curiosity, like what kind of data did they present? Like was it authentic or like had they just made it out?
I don't really know because as you know I was in my own arrested and I was this thing, but even when they were speaking, there was scientific material both available in Sri Lanka and overseas that contradicted it, and in fact I think there were enough. I think the secretary of the NPP, Mr. Nihal Abesinghe, was also one of the experts who had said this is rubbish. So a lot of these is something that I've read somewhere, and I think I have not seen what he said, but there's a lot of people who were just like Dr. Shafi. Whereas we had people saying this is science, but then we had Professor Hemantha Senanayake saying this is nonsense.
That's true.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least let's hope that we learn from these episodes. But something that we've been fighting for is like accountability for all of this. Maybe it'll come, maybe it won't. We have a new government. Maybe there'll be fresh impetus to bring some form of accountability. But I think we need some changes to the laws, right? I think the existing legal framework is not enough to go after some of this.
Yes, and I think also because we haven't seen this type of thing happening in our country, and so we need to have some sort of re-examination of the laws and maybe make some special provisions to deal with these type of situations.
Right. Okay. So let's move on from that. Recently, you've been talking about some other cases. I thought it might be a good time to bring those up. Because clearly this is on the top of your mind. I think there's a certain amount of legal work going on around them. One has been the Bindanueva massacre that you've talked about recently, and also the Valikada prison riot case. Why are these cases important to you, or why has it grabbed your attention?
The Valikada case grabbed my attention initially because I relate to that experience. I myself was a prisoner, and I know how helpless you are right? So there is a room like this and we are just stuck inside. Anybody can do anything to me and nobody will know. Right, and nobody will know because I'm just stuck. I mean, completely under the control of the state, and they just can do anything to me. The witnesses, nobody is going to talk about it. So, the Valikada riot on the I think 8th of August, the Supreme Court delivered its judgment, acquitting the last person accused of it. So they had they convicted, they indicted only 3, 2. Acquitted by the High Court. The last person, only one was convicted, the prison official, and then he was also acquitted by the Supreme Court in August this year. This follows a long line of cases where if you're a prison officer or a police officer or an army officer accused of some sort of atrocity against either a minority member, or the victim is a minority member, or is some sort of a weak member of society, they go off scot-free. Bindunumawa is one. Udatalavinna is another one. STF officers or army officers. Then you have Ratupaswala, acquitted. Ratupaswala, acquitted. Then you have the Valikada riots. And then you have, of course, you have the Ramukkana shooting, where they are out on bail. Some of them are serving as police officers. We'll wait and see how the indictment comes and what happens in the trials. But this has been, I think there is some systemic problem here in these cases.
But there seems to be a culture of impunity, right?
There seems to be a culture of impunity.
And also I think like how these drug kingpins get murdered because they try to escape. I think when some of them get arrested, they look for high-profile representation, because if not, they're worried about being sort of extrajudicially sort of executed, right? I think that's why they seek. I think Salih Peters had represented somebody, and there was a huge sort of people were saying, you're representing drug dealers and all of that. But that seems to be the logic, right? That's why they're doing this, because they're worried about what the state will do to them.
I don't know whether they retain lawyers because they are worried about, well, that's exactly the reason, but still they are worried. They are worried. I was on the 4th floor with Madhush and with Taraka, Koskoda Taraka, and I mean, people can have opinions about who they are and what they've done, and these are bad people and all that. But my view is that, well, then they should be tried.
Rule of law.
There's rule of law. They need to be tried, and they should go to court, and they should have their trial, and then that's how you're going to talk about it. You're going to assign fault and guilt only after that process, and. I don't know how right it is for me to say this, but they were very worried about the fact that, and the threat of being bumped off was something that they were very conscious about even at that time. And then we know what happened. Podilesi was also with me, and he's alive. He went to court because his mother went to court, and she said, and she got some orders, and now, but nothing has happened to him. So.
The other two were killed.
Yeah, Madhush was.
Madhush, I know. The other.
Madhush and Tarak was also. And I want to say this, and I don't know. I mean, there might be people saying various things about me on social media and all that, but Taraka, Madhush, and I were considered special category prisoners. Okay. We were at the highest of the high. At one point in my life, I was A grade. Us, the two of us, from 4th floor, the CID head of headquarters, to the police hospital, police school in Kalutara. So that's where we were sent for treatment. Yeah. And I was on the road and watching us actually enjoying it secretly with the amount of people like looking at it. Wow, who is going? Who's going here? And then we finished our treatment, and then we were brought back, And then the whole, and you know where the CID entrance is opposite the Greenlace Bank on York Street, and the whole area was cordoned off.
Just for you.
Just for us.
you.
And I can see people from Greenlace Bank wondering, who are these guys being taken on? Now, why I'm narrating this story, Chaminda, is that if I get up and walk to the toilet and come back, or if I'm going there is an armed guy next to me with a gun. So it's very unlikely that Taraka would have thought, no, I can take something and shoot back. It's
I think
we are handcuffed with a guy with a pistol here and a pistol here and AK-47s right surrounding us. That's how we are taken and transported.
Nobody's going to think I'm going to grab a gun and escape.
That's
But I think it could be that they were assigning that criminal stature to you. Based on the crime that you've been accused of.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Because, right? Mahamulakaru, right? That's not a joke. That's not a joke, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what ultimately was.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you have feelings about the people responsible for all of that. We'll talk about that on your third visit to to the round table. But just to get your thoughts on a Supreme Court order that came today about the immigration controller, does that give you some hope?
Yes. I mean, that's a brilliant, I'm very happy with that outcome. And you must congratulate the petitioners, Mr. Sumadiran and Rauf Hakim and I think Champika Ranawaka, and they've gone and they've really fought that case hard. And also the Supreme Court for taking this matter on very seriously. Because as a lawyer, there are enough times when the state tries to wriggle itself out of uncomfortable situations, coming out with some sort of mumbo jumbo. I think they tried to do the mumbo jumbo this time, but the court did not have it. They saw through it because they took up the position that the order, I am subject to correction, but vaguely what I don't know the exact specifications, but generally what I have been told or what I have learned is that the Attorney General's Department took up the position that the order could not be implemented.
Right. Yeah.
But I think the Supreme Court saw through it and said that it's not a case of could not be implemented, did not want to implement, and they treated them for contempt.
Right. So now, going back to the cabinet paper, aren't these reviewed by the Aegis department before it gets? Cabinet papers are, right? Don't they? Isn't there a process like that?
No.
The legality.
The minister would table the cabinet paper which had lies in it.
I don't.
What happens to?
No, but because
this guy, okay, he pays price.
No, because there's a contract involved which needs to be reviewed by the government attorney, which is the Attorney General, right?
These should have happened, but I don't think that the contract certainly is reviewed, but I don't think the cabinet paper is reviewed by the AG. Cabinet paper, I think, is in the control of the minister.
Right, okay. So, there's an irregularity here which wasn't exposed until sort of private parties went and, put the case. That should actually come from the Aegis department, shouldn't it? If there's any illegality or irregularity. So that's where the conflict comes in.
And I think this is what I've learned from people who are in court, and I think the court has not allowed the Attorney General to prosecute the contempt application because of the conflict issue. I think the Attorney General was not allowed to prosecute the contempt because generally the court calls on the Attorney General, but since the Attorney General was also advising these parties, I think the Attorney General was not allowed to prosecute.
Right. So how do you feel about this? Both the SJB and NPP talked about an independent prosecuting authority, that they're going to set up like an independent prosecutor. You think that'll solve the problem? Even the problems that like you faced. Would that have, if something like that had existed, would you have gone through what you did?
No, I don't think that would have entirely prevented something like my situation happening, because the arrest would have been
also the PTA, national security, and
all that. But of course, the reason why there is a call for the Attorney General's office to be split, where the prosecutorial aspect to be looked at separately, because the moment there is an investigation, right now, the moment there's an investigation law, the police starts getting advice from the Attorney General. Right? So in my case, the Attorney General was walking into the magistrate's court. So from day one, the Attorney General had his hand
in the case.
And then you ask the Attorney General, was the arrest fair? Look at it, look at the FR. Obviously, they are not in a position. It's the same group of officers who are coming into So that is where the institution needs to be split. One group needs to be looking at the things that affect the state as a whole, and another team that looks for the government. So government itself needs its lawyer. So we need someone to be the government's lawyer, fighting for the police, fighting for them in that way, and then someone who's looking the state as an entity, all of us included. So the DPP might play that role. So certain decisions will be made by the DPP, but the government can be represented by the FR applications, all that can be done by another group.
Right. So, you know, in the last 2 years, we saw a whole bunch of laws being passed, which we fought against. PTA became ATA, and then the Bureau of Rehabilitation. What are the others? The Online Safety Act. There was an NGO governance bill as well, where they were trying to regulate NGOs and Media Broadcasting Authority Act. Like pretty much any things that are designed specifically to sort of curtail rights and things like that. Of course, I can imagine what your thoughts on PTA and ATA are. How do you view these laws? You know, why they were brought in, and what can the new administration do to sort of repeal, or what can they do?
So we had a series of laws coming in, which were, I must say, were crazy, and that was also very scary. I think Anirudh and all of you have been talking about.
Do you think they're specifically a response to Baragale?
Yes. These were my submissions to court, right? The Supreme Court didn't, in its determination, I think for very good reason, because their judges didn't put it that way. That's me, and that's what everybody thought, right? So you had a rehabilitation bill that came out and said that certain people will be rehabilitated because I think there was a word like political idea, some group, or there was some vague term. So they couched it in with drug rehabilitation.
So it's like they can rehabilitate anyone.
So they had drug and this and that, and then people who hold something and then something very weird, So people who sit around a table and have a laptop and talk about things, something like that.
Actually, we did a entire session with Sanjana Hattotua about the Online Safety Act, and he scared the bejesus out of us. I mean, he said anything that we have ever published anywhere is subject to that. Ever.
It's like even WhatsApp,
And then we had the ATA, which was supposed to be like improving on the PTA, but it was much worse. Now, under the just one little thing, I'll just say this: under the PTA, to arrest, you need a superintendent's permission. Under the ATA, anybody can arrest. So even if the constable on the road, you annoy him, he can apply the PTA or the ATA to you. So there was a series of laws. ATA has not been passed. The online safety bill has been passed. The rehabilitation was sanitized by the Supreme Court, and they really struck all that down. So at the moment, I think the only law that is sort of problematic is the Online Safety Act. But I think in the implementation, I think with the amount of outcry that everybody here has been, and all of us around have been, the implementation has been, I think, fairly,
it's not been,
fairly prosecuted to our knowledge. So
there
that
are
has
some
been,
cases going on, like 2-3 cases going on,
but private citizens have made use of those draconian positions to go after some of their own person, but that's about it. But the state has not used it as a machine because, of course, the political climate was such. So let's see.
So can we repeal it?
Yes, you can.
It can be. So if the new government has the will, they can.
They can.
Yeah. The ICCPR cases, are they all done as well, or are they still ongoing?
ICCPR case is ongoing. ICCPR Act is on, and the ICCPR case is also ongoing.
Like Natasha's.
Natasha was, of course, she was discharged. Yeah, some of those, but there are little unknown, like small level, those that have not sort of hit the media radar and all that are still ongoing. But the main ones have all been
I know Natasha says I think they have like FR case going on so against the government. So
She has filed.
yeah, she has filed an FR. So it's a good move.
So do you worry about like judicial like interference and things like that with the executive? Like, what can they do to prevent sort of going forward interference with the judiciary?
I think the former president tried a lot, or at least trying to intimidate the judges. Repeated statements in parliament about the judges, summoning some of the judges. I think I don't know with what text, whether they actually summoned or whether there was a resolution, or at least they tabled a resolution in parliament to call judges to the parliamentary select committee. They tried to, but I think failed in parliament itself. So there were, but I think the Supreme Court has also stood strong.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, the amount that anybody is allowed to interfere with you is also about the boundaries you set.
Right.
So I think at the moment the court has set its boundaries quite well.
But the 20th Amendment conferred so much power to the executive, right? How do you redress that balance?
I think with the subsequent amendments, I think that has also been toned down. The 21st Amendment, I think, has toned that down. So in that way, I think we've crossed, and with the Constitutional Council being reinstated. On the law and order issue, another point that I think I want to is the fact that about the IGP's appointment and what's going to happen there. I think the new Minister of Public Security, Mr. Vijay Herath, I think took office today.
He did,
and he had stated that he will not be interfering with the police. That's a good thing. But also they need to appoint an IGP. So it'll be interesting to see what choice they make.
They can appoint an acting IGP, right?
Yes.
Well, he has about 15 ministries. I don't know when he's going to get around to it. But I had thought today, because now a new government, there is this expectation that they're going to tackle corruption. I mean, today maybe there were officials and, government officials and people in certain positions who thought twice about taking a bribe or even giving, or people about giving a bribe. Don't you think? I mean, I thought about it today. Like maybe for the first time they had to think twice about it.
We hope.
We hope. No, because that culture is there, but with the perception of change that comes in with the NPP, all those vehicles being returned and all of that.
And the thing is, like, no one has asked them to return the vehicles.
They just did it on their own.
Really?
Because they didn't want to be called out.
Even I thought like the government had asked them to return the vehicles, but that's not the thing. Like they have voluntarily left it there. So.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think there was a previous occasion, I don't remember exactly when someone or maybe more than one person was asked to return the vehicles and the vehicles couldn't be found. Sometime ago.
Was Sajin was charged for something like that?
Yeah, it has happened before, right?
Houses are not, they don't vacate houses.
Exactly.
They don't vacate vehicles.
Yes, even when they're told to. So
now it's happening so quickly.
Don't pay the electricity or water bill.
So about the constitutional rights of minorities, Hijaz, do you think the Constitution provides adequate protection for minority communities? Do we need more? Or should we not look at it in those terms? Should we not be seeing sort of, ethnicity like that?
I'll also. I mean, there is a lot of the mood in the country has shifted. I think, particularly after the Aragalaya, where I'm happy to see that people shedding those differences and sort of trying to stopping and not seeing that the Tamils have a separate kind of interest and Muslims have separate. But we do. I mean, minorities have their particular issues and they need to have their particular issues. But I think, but I think what's happening now is also we are able to see that whilst we have our individual issues and needs and wants and all that, we also can meet at a national level. And that kind of idea is gaining traction, that we can meet at a national level on certain things, and there we will also have our own space for what is specific for us. The constitutional provisions are good enough. If you look at the US Constitution, it does not have any even this bit. The UK had a much protected rights even without a Human Rights Act. Right? The common law protected the rights of the people. So everything is, at the end of the day, the culture of that country, how much we are ready to accept each other, and a vibrant, very vibrant legal profession, and a very receptive judiciary. So those are the things that are going to really make a change, and not really the provisions of the law. And that is why I am very happy, and I come to for your protests and for your these talks here, Chaminda, because you all are part of that in building that momentum and keeping these ideas and sort of radiating, and that's how we make changes in our society.
So you can't legislate your way out of all these issues. Some of them are societal. Like, we have to deal with it as people.
As people, yes. That's the main thing. We are as good as as the people who are in those places.
Right. So, having said that, though, there are a lot of grievances right now. Transitional justice issues. We still haven't really acknowledged the sins of our past. Even 83 is almost written out of the books and all of that. Do you think we need a genuine attempt to acknowledge, or do we just move past and say, look, bygones are bygones, let it be? Do we need to look at least the mechanism? I think the NPP has talked about a mechanism, some kind of truth and reconciliation, or do we just leave those things in the past?
No, I think we need to address. And speaking for myself, I'd like to know, even if it doesn't end up in a punishment or some repercussions, I'd like to know who was behind my arrest.
Yeah.
Right? Who was that?
Who gave the orders?
Who gave the orders, and what really went on, and why did they do this? I think there's a lot of people who were arrested after Easter Sunday, and especially those families that lost their loved ones.
Yeah.
They would like to know what really went on, and that's something is very important. I think we can fight over consequences in the sense for the people who are found to be involved, but the process must happen, and that's, I think, a problem, right? And that's not just we have had 83, we have the Aludgama, we have the Digana riots, and there's all these issues. We need to find out who are these people who did these things. Has anybody? Do we really know what has happened to this?
So we have been talking about, for example, Richard D'Souza in 1990, Basant Vikramatunga in 2009, Pradeep Nalligota disappeared in 2010, Keith Noy, all of these things. Because we felt
Tajuddin,
Tajuddin, 11
Shafter,
Then of course the Easter Iran. We can keep adding. People tell us, like, why do you want to keep picking at these wounds of the past?
Talk to their families.
Talk to their loved ones. That's exactly.
I think you can also talk to Nama, because even he also wants to know, no?
Yeah,
he was interviewed.
That's what he said in recent interview, right?
Yeah. He said, right?
He said even he also would like to know, apparently.
You need to talk to two people. One is the victims and their families, and is to the perpetrators. And the perpetrators will speak with so much of pride that, hey, we did it and we got away. And that culture persists in those establishments and in those police and the army and the state sector, that, oh yeah, we can do this, no problem. Yeah. And then the victims that, oh, these things will happen to us, and nothing, nobody is there to talk for us.
Well, so also when these things happen, and then a certain amount of time passed, and we thought, this can't happen again. And then we saw what happened to you, and then we saw what happened with the Easter bombings. So it's like we're repeating these cycles. So is there any hope? Like, how do you really view law and order right now? Do you have any hope that we can get to the bottom of all of this?
I think if you look at the NPP manifesto and also their past interviews and how they've pitched themselves during the campaign, they've promised, in that sense, I agree, they've promised promised justice for and to review these things.
Yeah, I think they talked with the Cardinal yesterday. Right? I think
I don't know to what extent it goes right up to the 83 riots and then coming down, but whether it's just up to the Easter Sunday. And also the type of people who are holding position now, I think they don't have any sort of baggage also that's preventing them from going into these issues. So hopefully, I'm hopeful that something positive might come out of this.
Right. I think there's that sense in the people also that there's a political class that look after each other, and I think this is the first time we've seen a shift away from that.
A total shift in the power. Yeah.
There is, right. So I think maybe it does frighten certain segments of society, right? I mean that you can tell that from the fear mongering, right? But maybe this is what we need as a country, like that shock to the system to, get things sort of back on track and at least get these things going.
And also for transitional justice, there has to be acknowledgement. That's one of the principles of transitional justice, right? I think in this country we have been very good at using these words without really meaning what we say. So whether it's truth and reconciliation or whether it's transitional justice, they're words to just throw around. But nothing actually happens, and nobody really understands what the bedrock of those concepts are. And I think someone needs to do that.
So I have talking, not I have actually get a lot of others.
No. You're the guest. So.
I just want you to just look at it from this perspective. Like, okay, so I'm a mother and I have a son, and my son has disappeared. I don't know what has happened to him. Nobody wants to tell me what happened to him. And then you want me to be patriotic and sing a national anthem and go and vote and pay my taxes and take national pride and all that.
Doesn't make sense, right?
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because
you make me first tell me what happened to my son. Right? At least acknowledge that. So that's why it's so important that we go into this and find out.
Right. I mean, that's dealing in human life and consequences of people being disappeared and all of that. Then we have all these financial scams. Which you can put it as maybe a step below.
You've done your homework.
you know what I mean, right? I mean, it's a step below. So we don't even see accountability for any of this. And we have I don't know whether you've seen the list. Chris has been.
We have a whole list of.
And we can, just in the last 2 years, forget this, these are old hat, but just in the last 2 years, Sipetco, right, with the purchasing contracts, Adan, with the visa, things that are happening at, purchasing immunoglobulin, even from the life-saving medication, they were making money. And yet they absolutely no consequences. Kahelia's no confidence motion after knowing that he was doing things that was compromising people's safety, they defeated it. They defeated the no confidence. And it took activism and journalism for us to be out there. Remember, we were in front of the health ministry.
We have to fight the police in the streets, right?
Exactly.
What the president did was transferring from that ministry to environment.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you expect those bigger issues to be resolved if we can't even, figure out accountability for financial scams and crimes? Do you sorry to put you on the spot.
I think it's not entirely hopeless. Now, if you look at Easter Sunday, the Supreme Court delivered a judgment and got them to pay a fine. Again, they came up to the Easter Sunday judgment.
Yes, of course. Can I ask a quick question on that? Why was Ranil Wickremesinghe not part of that judgment?
I think it's a huge judgment.
Was it his immunity at the time?
No, not the immunity. It was the fact because Maithripala Sirisena was found guilty and he was asked to pay. I think there was no connection. There was no trail connecting him with some of the key. He was not holding any key position, I think, at that time. No, but I think he was not involved with the defense sector. He was
so
not
it's basically
involved.
like the connection couldn't be proved.
Proved,
That's
yeah,
the-
yeah.
He said he wasn't invited to the.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think those were
Security
those
briefings,
were
yeah.
the
Yeah.
yeah.
But it was never told to the public
Yeah,
before that.
so that is his responsibility, right?
Yeah, I mean, he comes to Parliament and meets. He used to come to Parliament and use privilege
The
and talk
judge,
with
the
judges and
thing
all
is,
that. But he never-
Chaminda, when the Supreme Court gets on to making a decision, they're very careful, especially a matter like this. So unless there's some really, because you need to be fair by people. So unless there's some really like some direct link, like for example, with the people who were found, there was substance like, hey, you got the message here and you did not pass it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like maybe you could have knocked on that door. No, the guy actually knocked and opened the door and spoke to you, and you didn't do anything about it. So that was the kind of thing. So I think in the very sort of careful limitations that the court placed itself to that they get that whatever the outcome is cannot be called into question.
Right.
Certain people, I think, escaped the net, but they made sure that it's a. And then,
sorry, I derailed the original point.
yeah. So then with the economic crisis judgment also, the Supreme Court found certain people liable. So the court has been, with this public interest litigation, the court has been fairly receptive. But of course,
But no teeth in terms of like, in terms of dealing out punishment or whatever.
This economic, Mahindra Rajapaksa, Basil Rajapaksa, Gotabe, Basil and as well as Niwad Kamra.
But no consequences, no real consequences, yeah. True, that's you're right about it. Maybe the court was also restricted in the way how the legal system works and all that. But I think that's also where the political machinery needs to step in. Political machine needs to step in and try to bite.
But there are cases now. For example, Diana Gamaki, who was not even a citizen. How does she get bail for an offence that is non-bailable? I mean, that is the court's responsibility in that sense too, right? So,
is a non-bailable offence?
That's what we've been led to believe, right? That's what we've been led to believe.
I don't know. I'll have to look at. I'm not really sure of. But I think immigration offences. There are no offences right at this point in time that are non-bailable. To my knowledge, I think every offence has a bailable provision. The PTA was also non-bailable, but thanks to the Court of Appeal judgment in Hijaz Hizbullah versus Attorney General, even that was made bailable.
So you need to allow for that flexibility.
No, because the courts have read into these this thing. But immigration, I know which but I'm sure she's been prosecuted on the immigration laws. The Supreme Court judgments allow for bail. There are judgments that have said that bail can be given.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I mean, those were the main things that we wanted to sort of tackle with you. Anuruddh, any thoughts, any questions for Hijaz?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Dushi?
I'm fine.
Chris?
It's a nice
anything?
picture.
No, I put this picture because you want to just explain this picture, Hijaz. I found it really interesting because all the people.
I recognize
Natasha?
Natasha and Vizek.
No, really. I mean,
I'd like to learn.
I mean, actually, her story really upsets me.
So this was so Amnesty International, the General Secretary was in Sri Lanka, and she wanted to meet with she wanted to see how Amnesty had really helped people, and then of course Amnesty had made some telephone calls to the people that they had worked with, and wanted us to meet. I don't know whether it's correct for me to say all this online, but anyway, so that's this photo is there, so that's
right
there.
It's in public domain.
Yeah, so we met and we were all seated in this room and we were looking at each other and saying, hey, what a crowd. What a crowd, right?
Yeah.
So we were trying to say, what shall we call ourselves? So I said we should call ourselves the headliners because everyone has a headline, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Actually,
and
you're more like the Avengers.
yeah, so some of them were worried.
Yeah.
Should this be public that we came? And I said, this is precisely the kind of thing that we are going to fight back. And so, so we decided we need to take a photograph and we're going to put it out. No matter who says what, we're going to put it. No matter how much of hate messages we get, we're going to put it out.
Can you tell
us who it is?
Yeah, I
don't
know
think
who that is. All of them
Yeah.
are. So, Shakvita, I'll start with
Extreme left.
extreme left, my left.
Yeah.
That's Ahnav Jazim's father.
The poet. The poet.
Yeah, Ahnaf's father. Next to him is Ahnaf, right? Ahnaf was a prosecutor under the PTA and thing, and then it's me. Then Ramzi Razik is right behind me, right? Then Natasha Edrisurya, Sandek Naligota, and then Sakvita, who was the first person arrested under the ICCPR Act. He's a journalist for freedom for something he had written. He was arrested. You know the others. I think the others. Ramzi was who had just written that there has to be a jihad of the pen. He was arrested and he was kept in custody for a very long time. The Supreme Court gave a fantastic judgment, Justice Jasanta Godagod, about how we should not sort of just because he used the word jihad that he should be arrested, and that kind of reaction was overreaction. So we thought that we should take a photograph and be public about it, because I mean this is also part of the creating space for people.
Miss Sandek Naligod, her husband has disappeared, right? Like he has not.
Yes, very sadly.
He's never been. I mean, recently there has been 2 mass graves that have been unearthed, and like sometimes I think all these disappeared people, and the one they found in Colombo was at the entrance to Port City. The new one that they excavated. Entrance to Port City. It's there, and there's a couple in the north.
High security zone.
East, I think.
High security zone.
And so on. So, I mean, it's heartbreaking, right? When you see her like this. I mean, she's dedicated her entire life to finding a husband or fighting against whatever.
One thing that I do think, and on the day of the elections and when the results came out, I actually I was relieved, because if this government holds, stays true to what it has promised, that will be the day then we won't be busy doing this type of work, and that we'll be just going on with our own life, and we won't have to go around and fight these cases and do these things, but it's just like doing our day-to-day thing, not worried about, because there's a government that's looking after us.
Right, exactly. So there's a quote, like usually we end the session with a quote, justice delayed is justice denied. Do you believe that? Because there's justice delayed in all of these cases that we talked about. Is that denial of justice?
Justice delayed is certainly justice denied, and I'd also like to just say, I don't know who has said this, but can I have my own quote?
William Gladstone.
Yeah, but can I give my own quote? I don't know who has said this. Mm-hmm. Lots of people are being attributed as having said this, including Mahatma Gandhi, but I don't know.
Nobody knows.
I think I tweeted that the measure of a society is not in the way it treats its best.
That's my second
but in the way it treats its worst.
It is said that no one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones.
That's the one. That's the one. Yes.
There are versions of that, but the original quote is about that. How funny that was the exact quote that we picked out. But that is a fact, because when you kill prisoners and how did 27 people die? If nobody's guilty, did they kill themselves? So that is the question, So why are we shy to deal out accountability? I mean, if we're not shy to take people's lives. So
yeah.
So shall we end it on that note?
Thank you, Jaminda.
No, thank you so much,
Thank you,
Hijaz.
Chris, and thank you,
Thank
Anuruddha.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think you're the first returning guest, isn't it? Harini has spoken to us twice, but the first time was not
a round
It
table.
was not. It wasn't a formal round table.
Right.
That was an informal
Yeah.
discussion that we had with her.
Okay, so let me just say, before we end, we as a group took a decision that we are actually going to scale back our street protests. We've been doing it for 312 days since the days of the Aragale. We did 100 days consecutively. The 100th day happened to be the day that Ranil was made president, but we had taken a prior decision. We're going to scale back to twice a week. So once on Sunday, every Sunday, and then we have the round table on Wednesdays. And we've decided now we're going to scale that back, right? I think we'll do, because we've created a civic space, Hijaz, we don't want to just abandon it. So even as a token, we feel like we should stand there, because even those civic spaces have been denied.
I think we should hold this government also
Denied.
accountable. I mean, one of the main things.
Yes,
That's a characteristic of a healthy democracy, right? Like protesting is not a bad thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, protest and dissent. I mean, it's protected in our constitution itself, right? So we want to keep that civic space alive. As a token, I mean, we want to give the new administration the time it needs to enact everything, but we will keep reminding them, these are the promises you made, these are the issues of sort of justice and accountability, right? And so we will keep the pressure on. I think it's more important that the people who support the administration, the people who voted them in, hold their own leaders accountable. Then the activists don't have to do anything. Activists only have to get involved and, they don't hold their own leaders. That was the problem with the Ranil Wickremesinghe movement, because the supporters were not interested in accountability at all. They were only, interested in stability and things like that. So everything else was just kind of swept under the carpet. And actually he himself said, look, I'm not,
Yeah, he said
governance is second, stability is first. A government should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, right? Walk and talk, not just do one thing.
There's one thing I want to ask him,
Go ahead.
but just your opinion. We had a Minister of Justice, Vijaydas Rajapaksa, who mentioned that, he said that, he has cannot understand how drugs, when confiscated, turn into something else. Now, he just made that statement, and he said it, headlines. That's it.
Also, he said 200
Express word.
million was paid as a bribe to
That's
somebody, and then after that, nothing. So, can responsible people make these types of statements and then no?
That shows the type of the type of people who have been holding these positions, and again the culture, right? It is a fact. It is a fact that the drugs are seized, but then the government analyst report says these are not. So either somebody switched it, or somebody planted it, or so that happens. So maybe it was not drugs at all when he was arrested, but they put him in because they were going after him. So they are being protected. You need to stop this, right? Police people, Muslims in Katanguri made complaints against Zaharan, but the police didn't do anything. So the question is, why is it that Vijaydas Rajapaksa went to Parliament and said there is a ISIS cell operating in Sri Lanka, but didn't do anything about it?
Yeah.
So I hope a good riddance, and I hope that we end this type of culture, and that we ask those questions of who paid this 200 million or whatever the bribe is, and whatever, and go into that.
When people in public trust make that type of comments, it erodes the trust people have in those institutions. So I think that's the issue.
And also it also reflects on our society, that somebody can just come and say that it will make the headlines, but that's it.
And they can just go away.
And they'll walk away.
Yeah.
Nobody will ask another follow-up question or follow-up action. He'll make it and he'll sling mud at his opponent and get some ratings up or whatever. But that's the end of the matter. That's it.
We certainly hope that culture
comes to an end.
And the best thing is, we have an election coming up, which means the power is back with us. So I think people need to look at everybody on the ballot, who they are, their character, all of that matters, right?
Yes.
And maybe not return sort of 2/3 of the people who are sitting in this current parliament, who've completely lost their sort of mandate. There's no mandate for them anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
So So even like I think like it's very important, like the people must ensure like they have given decision. The current president, he has a mandate, and that has to be ensured in Parliament as well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like he will not be able to do anything.
He will not be able to govern.
Reform,
I mean, we want things like abolition of the presidents, for example. For that, you need a.
It's like the people have accepted his set of principles and his policy framework. So if that needs to be implemented, he needs to be.
People need to give him another mandate at the next one too. Right. On that note, shall we wrap up tonight?
Thank you, Chamin.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anuruddha, Tushi, Chris,
thank you.
all of you. Anu CK, thanks as usual for putting it on. So that's it for day 312. We are not on our street con on Sunday, right? When are we next on the street con? End of the month, last Sunday of the month? I think we need to figure that out internally, right?
We decided once a month.
Yeah.
Maybe in about 2 weeks' time?
In about 2 weeks' time.
The president has appointed 9 governors so quickly. We need to figure this out quickly.
We'll do that fast. Yeah, exactly. Chris, come on. All right. Thank you so much. And with that, that's a wrap from GGY. Good night.
Okay.